So we are going to jump into a role play with Skylar and Dr. Robin. Skylar is going to play the closer for a tax planning and reduction offer. And Dr. Robin, he is going to play the prospect here. We are going to break down the subtle nuances of the discovery part of a sales call and show you the critical things that you need to be doing so that you can close more sales. So without any further ado, Skylar, crack in with your opening question.
So, Dr. Robin, what is the biggest reason you are looking to reduce your tax bill right now?
And I'm fed up with paying taxes to the government when I just know that I'm making all this money and doing all these things and working so hard like a dog. And I want to build up my future and save up for my family and do what I want to do instead of giving it to this government.
Got it. And how much did you give to the government this past year?
It was about $15,000.
$15,000?
Correct.
Okay. And how about the year before?
$10,000.
Okay. Similar the year before as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So approximately over the past 3 years, we paid about $35,000 to $40,000 in taxes.
That's correct.
Got it. So knowing that you've paid $40,000 in taxes, what do you feel like you would be doing differently if you hadn't paid $40,000 in taxes at this point in time?
I would be putting it into investments.
What type of investments?
Well, I'd like to have a balanced portfolio. So I love putting money into crypto. I like to reinvest back into myself in terms of what I can do to increase my how much money I can earn myself per month, as well as having some real estate.
Okay, so it seems like if you were to keep some of that money, it would go back into reinvesting to building your overall wealth picture.
Correct.
Got it. And just so I'm understanding you correctly, do you mind if we dive into the details of what your wealth picture is currently looking like?
Absolutely.
Cool. So what is your income for 2025?
Do you mean from a personal standpoint, take home, or from my business?
It would be personal profit.
Personal profit. Okay. So I take home about $10,000 to $15,000 a month personal income.
Okay.
And I've been doing that. This year it started to become profitable. Last year and the year before, I was putting as much as I could through the business. And now the business has started to really pay dividends. I'm able to take more. So the 10 to 15K has been mainly the past 6 months. Prior to that, it was slowly increasing. But for the first year, it was like I was taking the minimum wage. It's like $2,000 a month.
Okay. So it seems like you're starting to hit a critical mass then in the success of your business and how much you pay yourself.
Exactly.
Got it.
Pause. Okay, very good so far. Any idea why I paused you?
No.
Dr. Robin, any idea why I paused Skylar? Did you feel anything with the way he phrased that last statement/question?
I feel like he let me off the hook.
Okay. I do agree to a certain extent that there's some moments where we're letting him off the hook, but I'm not too fussed because I'm going to assume, which is what I'm going to critique you on actually, that you're probably taking notes to circle back. The reason I paused you is that I feel like you made an assumption with, hey, you're paying yourself more money because you're now reaching this critical mass. I would have asked, why are you paying yourself more? Because the first things that came out of Dr. Robin's mouth playing the prospect here was, I'm fed up, I'm working so hard, and I want to produce for my future. So those are the pieces of information that I actually know are true. He then said, I've recently started paying myself more money in the last 6 months. You then kind of just said, okay, so you've reached a critical mass of the business, you're now paying yourself more. It could have been something completely fucking different. Like, as an example, just go back a couple questions and I'll be the prospect for just a couple seconds. So you're asking about the personal income. So just start with the personal income. And I'll show you how weird this convo could have gone if you'd have asked the question.
Got it. So Josh, how much profit did you personally take home this year?
This year, 10 to 15K a month.
Got it. So $140,000. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that being the case, why did you start paying yourself more this year in comparison to prior years?
We've just actually had twins,
Oh,
right?
okay. Congratulations.
Pause the role play. You see what I mean? Like, that's some pretty juicy information that could connect a lot of things together here. You just don't want to leapfrog over certain things.
Got it.
It could be just he's growing the business. It could be, I've decided that I want to pay for my kids to go to private school, and so I'm having to take out more personal money. You just don't know. Okay, so don't assume. Jump back into the role play. By the way, one other little thing, just nitpicking. You were doing this year, the year before, how much money have you given to the government? Beautiful. But the way you phrased it was, we've paid blank to the government. Never say we, just say you. So you've paid $45,000 to the government. Don't say we. It takes away the ownership and the personal feeling that hey, you motherfucker, you've paid this money.
Good catch. I honestly didn't even hear that, so thank you.
All right, so jump back in. Go from the question that I think you should have asked, just to see wherever Dr. Robin wants to take it. What led to it. So I would have phrased it as, okay, got it. So you're paying yourself more this year compared to last year. I'm curious, what led to you increasing how much personal income you're taking from the business? Just pure curiosity. Okay, so jump back in from there.
So Dr. Robin, I'm curious, why did you start paying yourself more this year?
To be honest with you, Skylar, my business just started to hit a critical mass, and it just started to make some more profit so that I'm able to take out this money without hampering the growth of the business.
Okay. And what does critical mass mean to you?
Just where it's making enough profit where I can continue to grow the business, and I can continue to invest in the business whilst also take money out of it.
Okay. And what was the profit last year in comparison to this year that allowed you to do that?
The profit last year compared to this year. So last year in total, we profited about $100,000. And this year we're on track to profit $225,000.
So we have a 125K jump.
Correct.
Got it. So going forward here too, that means your taxes have also increased by about 30 to 40K realistically.
Dude, again, you're spot on, but I wouldn't be telling him that. It's so much more powerful when they tell you. So, it's such an obvious question, but it's just so much more powerful when the prospect said. So I would have said, and I would have been a little bit more zoomed out just in case there's any other connecting dots. So I would have said, okay, so your income's gone up by $125,000 take home profit. Is that correct? Yes. So what I'm wondering is, given that you've grown the business, you're taking home more, you're doing better, and we're now on a call about, tax planning and reduction, is there any type of relationship between those two things? And then he can say yes, no, well, yeah, motherfucker, because now I'm paying fucking double, triple the amount of money in tax. It's just so much better when you're detached and you step back and you're just asking them, hey, I don't know, you tell me. And then they're having to step into the position of, yeah, let me justify to you, let me explain to you why we're on this phone call. Yeah. So you're on perfect threads. Everything you've done right now, you've never gone in the wrong direction. You're just leapfrogging a couple of times over a couple of things to just move a bit quicker. And this is the thing, is that, and I think I said this on a training, slow down to speed up. If you slow down in the discovery and you get the prospect to tell you the things, they don't give you objections at the end of the call because you weren't trying to rush them through the call. Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Makes sense. Okay, so Robin, have you sat down and looked at the difference in your tax bill from last year to this year yet?
Yeah, man. I look at it, I look at the numbers and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pay shitloads more in tax this year.
And do you know how much more specifically?
No, I haven't calculated, like crunched the numbers and got to the exact number, but I just know it's gonna be fucking bigger than last year. Excuse my French.
Hmm. Do you feel like you're putting yourself in the best position to succeed if you're not taking the time to look at those numbers?
Well, that's why I'm here. I really need, like, I hate number crunching. I hate like tax returns and all of that. I just want to be, I'm the best in town at what I do. I just want to like focus on that and have someone assist me to just take care of the taxes, help me choose the right investments and not have to do all that filing paperwork.
Got it. Okay. What have you done to date to actually start to reduce this tax?
Well, go back. Good stuff. Leading a little bit. It's interesting because the same thing that I called you out on before, slightly different technique, but the same intention as far as like, we know how much you're crushing it as far as your numbers. So I'm actually quite surprised and excited about how much more money you can be making if we nail down some of these things, because you're trying too hard. You don't actually need to try as hard as you're trying. So you were saying something to the effect of, well, do you feel like you've put yourself in the best position to blank type of success by not looking at your numbers? You're challenging him way too early. Like you don't need to. I would have just been way more detached to that question. I would have just said, okay, got it. Any particular reason you haven't crunched the numbers? Any particular reason you haven't crunched the numbers, as opposed to, again, leapfrogging to challenging the guy. So we don't need to challenge him yet. The second thing, and that's why I didn't actually say this immediately, I wanted to see if you got the other question. This next question would have started to bring you into a place where you get a read on the person that you're on the phone with and the level of ownership. That question, very simply, he said, I looked at my tax bill, but I didn't crunch the numbers. The most powerful question you could have asked next would have been, when did you look at that? Because if he said it was yesterday, then I want to go, okay, well, given that it was yesterday, why are we on the phone so quick? Oh, dude, it's so bad. I didn't even want to crunch the numbers because I can just hypothesize that it's a huge number. Beautiful. He's starting to sell himself on the importance and the urgency of doing something now. What about the other way? Oh, it was 8 weeks ago. Interesting. So it was 8 weeks ago. You mentioned that you didn't crunch the numbers, and then now 8 weeks later, we're talking about this. Did something change? Right? Like where the conversation is now heating up is by getting into these details. He looked at the bill. Well, he looked at the letter. He doesn't know the numbers. Well, when did you look at it? Why did you not crunch the numbers? We're not challenging him, but we're getting really deep into curiosity now. And the deeper you go into that curiosity, the easier it's going to be to sell. Because by my questions, oh, well, given that it was only 6 hours ago, why did you book in a call with me so soon? Oh, because of blank, blank, blank. Given that it was 4 months ago, why are we only talking now? Whichever direction he asked me, that is where the conversation is going to start to get a lot juicier. And he now realizes I ain't fucking around, Playboy. Like whether you tell me it was 6 hours ago or 6 months ago, either way, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to get to the bottom of what's the relationship between it being 6 hours ago and us being on the phone right now? Or what's the relationship between it being 8 months ago and us being on the phone now? You, Mr. Prospect, are going to have to explain to me. That's frame control through questions. The cheap way of doing frame control is trying to beat your chest and be the hard closer that's, hard closing people be. You don't need to do that. You just need to know which questions to ask where the prospect's like, oh, okay, I need to play ball here. Make sense?
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So don't be so assumptive / leading / jumping over questions. And then number 2, just think, what what do I really want to know? What do I really want to be curious about? And with this guy, he mentioned some high level things. I'm fed up. I'm working so hard. I want to plan for my future. Beautiful. He's then told us that this year his bill's a lot bigger. We don't know how much, but he's told us it's a lot bigger. I still need to go a layer deeper, which is kind of like, yeah, but why now? Why are we on this call now? So following the bouncy ball of I just got the letter, or I got the letter. Well, when did you get the letter? Well, why didn't you crunch the numbers? Like, it's going to start leading us to the why now, the commitment and the urgency. And so this is one thing that we've talked about in the weekly live training is like, when do I move from data gathering to commitment and, ownership? It's like they kind of blend in together when you're doing things the right way. Like I'm not coming out of data gathering to ask the questions that I just mentioned. When did you get it? Why did you not crunch? I'm still in data gathering, but I'm layering in the commitment and the ownership as I'm gathering the data. And if the conversation starts to tilt from, okay, I kind of feel like I don't really need much more data because now we're having this juicy conversation about some relevance to the ownership. He just had twins and whatever happened and, his grandma just passed away, whatever the fuck it is. I wasn't trying to go there. I was just gathering data and I was just curious about the details. And in the details, as they say, that's where the devil is. The devil is in the details. That's where you're going to find the consummation of everything. It's why scripts versus unscripted, scripts versus scriptless, scripts are very linear. Conversations don't go linearly. It's like a snowball where as the snowball is rolling, it's picking things up as it's rolling down the hill, like little leaves are getting stuck to the snowball and twigs and fucking someone's hat that fell on the floor. As the ball is rolling, it's picking up all of these things. And so with scriptless selling, as I'm gathering my data and the ball's rolling, I'm finding these details as I go along that are sticking into the snowball until I have, using your phrase, critical mass. I've got this critical point, which is like, hey, I've got the data and the ownership and the reasons why and the commitment. And now I'm just going to ask you how much longer. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And I can see where at times what I found happen a lot over the past quarter is our setters have been going so deep into like data mode that by the time this person gets on there and I start to touch data, people are like, all right, I already had this conversation, you know? And now I'm like, all right, well, where do we go from here? If the data produces like the emotion that we've talked about the last few trainings and the data has already been discussed with our team, what else is there? You know?
Well, I just don't really care what the prospect thinks. Quite frankly, if you've had this conversation before, that's lovely. I'm going to ask you the questions again. And like, remember that a lot of the ruffling of the feathers that prospects do is their personal shit, not your shit. It's like they're impatient. They're bothered. They don't want to talk about their numbers. Well, sorry, motherfucker. If we need to talk about your $200,000 tax bill twice to get it handled, then do you want to not get it handled or do you want to talk about it twice? That's kind of my mindset around it is like, yeah, the setter asks you the questions to be able to speak to me. I'm now going to ask you the questions to clarify. And if there's ever any type of final, ultimatum, I would just be direct and not direct, honest with the prospect. And I'd say, listen, man, there's a big difference between me and the people that we have on the front of the business. They do a great job. That's why you're on this call with me now, because they think that you actually need our help. But they are a lower level of executive in the company. And I would assume, tell me if I'm wrong, that you would not want us to be negligent in clarifying numbers around your finances and your taxes, given that you might be coming aboard with us to get everything right to save you money. They could have asked you a question. They could have misheard something. They could have been having a bad day. You could have maybe fumbled your words. And then if that wrong data comes into this conversation, we could end up going and rowing in completely the wrong direction. So I am being very thorough with this conversation because that is the type of people and the type of business that we are. If you have an issue with that, then maybe you should go and work with, Uncle Sam from KFC. But we take things very seriously. right? So if I really need to step in, I'm just going to be honest and be like, well, they're an executive on the front of the business. You know, they're not getting paid. I'm not going to say my salary, but you know, they're not getting paid $500 million a year to get everything right, like a tax planner might be. So if you really need to Hail Mary it, you just explain to them, but you hold the frame. You don't go, oh shit, they don't want to answer the questions twice. Fuck, what do I do? If you need to ask the question again, you ask the question again. And if they get antsy about it, then you step in and you just lay down the frame and let them know, I'm asking these questions twice because that's the professionalism that we adhere to. Copy. Yeah. All right, brother. Cracking.
Okay. So Dr. Robin, you mentioned that you haven't sat down and looked at the difference in the numbers from last year's taxes paid to this year's taxes paid, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And going forward here, do you feel, sorry, Josh, kind of lost where we're at here.
So yeah, just crack back in from there. And so you basically had said, you know, you didn't get the numbers. If you want to phrase it the way I would have said it, I would have just said any particular reason, insert whatever the thing is we're talking about, because that's kind of a, you know, obviously we don't teach word tracks here, but like, if I'm curious about anything, a way that I can phrase questions is always any particular reason. Now, because one of the important things in sales is to contextualize everything, it would almost be never that I would just say any particular reason. I would always contextualize any particular reason you did not sit down and crunch the numbers. But the trigger in your mind to know to ask this clarifying question, or it's more a probing question, is person says something, you think, oh, that's interesting. Any particular reason? And you're looking for reasons, because reasons tell you the truth. Reasons tell you people's psychology. Reasons tell you what's really going on. That's when you get to the reasons. You know, it's weird. He knows it's going to be a huge number. He hasn't crunched the numbers, but he's on a call with me. Weird. Now, I don't want my vibe to be, you're a weirdo. I want my vibe to be, I feel excited that there's something else going on in this conversation. I'm excited to uncover it. It's like a game of Cluedo, the petroleum rod in the library with Mrs. Green. I'm like, well, let me figure all this out, and then I've got my case. Yeah. So I would just go for the particular reason. I don't know which one would have come first. It probably doesn't matter too much, but I would also want to know when. So any particular reason he didn't crunch the numbers, and when did he actually get it? When did he become aware of his heightened tax liability? By the way, on the topic very quickly, one thing you want to do in sales is stick to the prospect's words. So when he says crunching the numbers, I wouldn't say any particular reason you didn't sit down and calculate the numbers. I would say crunch the numbers, because he said crunch numbers. But there's other times where, and it's less when it's the prospect that says something, it's more when you're just thinking of saying something in general. You can turn up the heat by phrasing things a certain way. So I wouldn't say, whenever it's going to come up in the conversation, I wouldn't say, your $50,000 tax. I would say your $50,000 tax liability. And I would very subtly emphasize the word liability, just to kind of poke and prod the prospect. So there's certain words that you can add into the way you're phrasing things that just turn up the heat a little bit. But don't do that when it's the prospect's words and you're trying to change the prospect's words. But when you just have something to say, you can add those extra phrases in. Is that clear?
Clear.
All right, go for it.
Awesome. So Dr. Robin, is there any particular reason that you haven't crunched the numbers?
Yeah, the reason that my business doubled in the past year and reached critical mass was because I just focused on what I did best and just got to work. And anytime I was distracted by stuff that I'm not good at, that I don't want to do, like crunching numbers and filing tax return and everything, it just distracts me from my business and I make less money. So I was looking and researching, saw you guys might be able to help me out. And so that's why I booked this call.
Okay. And when did you specifically get inspired to reach out?
I guess this month, the business reached another critical mass and we started to get another bunch load of clients. And I realized, oh man, I'm going to have way more income, which means the tax is going to get bigger. And I just felt the urge that the tax is going to be bigger and I don't want to do that. And so I started to look at ways that I could reduce my tax without having to do it myself, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. And what other ways did you find to reduce your tax bill in that journey?
Well, just the basic things of like finding the right.
We missed something very critical. Any idea what it is?
Another critical mass step in the business happened recently.
No. So if I tell you what Dr. Robbins said, to paraphrase, see if you can spot what you missed. So he said something like, and this was in response to the question, any particular reason you didn't crunch the numbers? He said, well, the reason that we made more money is that I had recently decided to focus on what I do best and to not get distracted. Any idea what the juice is in there?
He doesn't have the time or the bandwidth to focus on this. He really needs the help. Like to me, and I that part.
Nope, you're being way too assumptive. Maybe he does have the time, maybe he doesn't have the time. All I know for a fact is that his mindset, his mental model is focus and remove distractions. That's his mental model. I don't know where tax planning and tax reduction fits within his mental model. So I'm going to ask him. So it would go something like this. Okay, so I'm role playing with you, Dr. Roy. Okay, got it. So that's awesome. You obviously focus, you made sure to not get any distractions and really just, do what you do best. So given that we're on the phone today, as far as something, probably not in your day-to-day things, where does tax planning and tax reduction fit within your focus points, what you do best, distractions right now?
Right now, I have very little time. I need someone to do something to help me out, point me in the right direction to have the most important key steps to take
Okay.
at this time.
Makes total sense. So you want it basically to just be taken off your plate.
Correct.
What about, because the other thing I'm curious about is, you say that one of the key decisions that you made a year ago, which has worked so well to make you more money, was not focusing on anything that doesn't need to be focused on right now. Where does tax planning and reduction fit for you right now as far as this needs to be done, but I just don't have the time for it? Or, yeah, this is not really that important, but if someone can do it for me anyway, I'll just get it off my plate. Where does it kind of fit in that?
Good question. My year end is coming up in 60 days time. So it has to be done, but it has to be done. But as I said, I personally have no freaking time to do this. So I need to buy back my time. Someone's got to do it.
Do you see that, Skylar? Like, he just told me it's going to happen now. He told me he doesn't have time to do it. He has literally just sold himself on the timeline and needing help. I didn't have to ask any of the bullshit scripted questions like, so what's your timeline on getting this handled? Is it a now kind of thing or is it a 6 months kind of thing? Which sounds bullshit, horrible, extremely salesy. And they're going to be like, oh, no, it's not really that important. Even if it was, they're going to respond like that because they feel triggered. I also need to say, so, if reducing your tax bill would make you so much more money, like what's stopping you figuring that out on your own? I don't know. I could probably figure it out on my own, but I just thought I'd have a call with you. Trying to sell them on hey, you need help. No, I don't. It's the typical jujitsu. Hey, you need help with your tax planning. No, I don't. Whereas I'm like, okay, so you've told me that one of the ways that you make decisions in the last 12 months is focus, doing what you do best and not getting distracted. That's beautiful. So you tell me, where does this thing that I'm going to sell you fit within your mental model? I'm not going to try and put it in there when you don't want me to put it in there, because then you're just going to reject it. and you go spit it back out like a baby, spitting out a dummy. You're going to be like, I don't want it. So when you miss some of these things, and you're obviously one of our best students as well, which is why I'm being very detailed with you. Like, these are really advanced things, especially this one, because this is not data gathering. This is now buying into someone's mental models. But when you're into someone's mental models, you're going to get data. So it's like, when people say, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, well, either. Like, I can gather data to get the mental models, or I can gather the mental models to extract data from the mental models. So the data that I'm getting from his mental model was, why now and why do you need help? I got both of those things without asking for the data on why now or why do you need help. I got those things by taking what the prospect said and going deeper. Scriptless selling, the prospect always has the answers. Always. You just have to listen to what they're saying and think, oh, wow, that's really cool. You chose to focus on things, doing what you do best, not getting distracted. So what I'm wondering, I'm very curious, where does tax planning and tax strategy fit within your success model that you've been following for the last 12 months? And it's also such a light-hearted conversation. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm on a sales call. I'm genuinely excited to hear about your mental model. Now, final piece on this. The reason that so many salespeople will never do this and do not do it is because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they ask open-ended questions, the prospect will give them an answer that they don't want. Like, they're like, oh, well, if I ask them, how does this fit in their mental models? They're going to give me some answer like, oh, it doesn't really. They're on the fucking call. They booked in a call and they turned up to the call. There is a 99% chance, if you show up with the right energy and you're super chill and you're super detached, they want to sell themselves onto your offer. They turned up to the call. So, like, it's just this twisted belief by salespeople that they're like, oh, I don't want to put the ball in the prospect's hand. I don't want to put the ball in the prospect's court because they're going to kick it off in the wrong direction. It's like, why the fuck would a prospect turn up to a call, waste an hour of their time for you to pass them the ball, for them to kick it in the wrong direction? That would be a total waste of their time. If you give them the ball, they're on your team. They're on the same side as you. They're going to kick the ball into the goal. But closers don't get this because they think it's us versus them. Closer versus prospect. I need to, beat you into a corner until you want to buy it. It's like, no. They came to the call because they want to buy. Just don't fuck it up and they'll want to buy. And the more you put the ball in the prospect's court, the more they're going to score their own goals. And you're like, holy shit, I'm just spectating while the prospect scores my commission for me. I didn't even have to fucking do anything and they just scored a commission for me. It's a joke how easy it is when you get this, but it's very advanced because it doesn't not happen because of skill. It doesn't happen because of internal stuff. The closers are like in a place of scarcity and they're like, oh, I want to control the call. I want to control the conversation. I want to control the prospect. The more you do that, typical laws of physics, every force has an equal and opposite force, is basic laws of physics. The more you try and control it, the more the prospect's going to push you away. The more you just detach and you just say, oh, so, you've been following these mental models for the last 12 months. It's worked very well for you. You tell me, where does tax planning and strategy fit within your framework? And they will sell you on the alignment between the way they make decisions and the decision that they want to make at the end of this call. Is that clear? Super.
Absolutely. Dude, and the prospects always have the answers. That's like pre-call checklist worthy right there. That's fire.
So, yeah. So just don't miss things, dude. Because when he said about, and it was a great question, okay, so, how have you made more money this year? Something like that. And he said, oh, I've been more focused and I've been less distracted. I'm like, I'm going to use what the prospect said to make him buy the thing that I'm about to sell him. I'm just going to assume those two things are going to connect together. His mental models, my solution. He's now going to tell me why that is something he does need to focus on, that it is a part of him doing the best things for the business, and he's not going to get distracted by doing it himself. He just basically consummated the sale in those last 2 questions. I can't do it myself. I don't have the time, and I have 60 days to get it done. I mean, this is where we get into the line of like, all right, conversation over. I'm just going to close you now. Like, I might ask a few more questions just in case I've missed anything, but like, this idea of I've got my script and I've got to cover my entire script. It's like, no. You have to get what you need. Once I've got what I need, I don't need to do any more questions. But I got what I needed by just digging deeper. All right, dude. Crack back in there. So you can go from wherever you want. You can go back a few questions, start there wherever you want.
Do we want to flip? I have a hard, like 6:05. Just heads up, my time.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Let me close this call out then, and then we'll start the other one. So from that point, as I kind of mentioned there, I would have basically just said, okay, guys, you got 60 days and, you've obviously got this bill. You want to reduce the bill. You don't have the time to do it yourself. So the only thing else that I'm really wondering, Dr. Robin, is like, was there anything that attracted you to us as far as being the guys to get this done in a timely manner and also in a way that's not going to, burden you with more things to do? Like, was there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, my buddy Manuel, he referred me to you guys. He told me, he's a good friend of mine. He told me how well you've been doing, how much you saved for him, and then how quickly you did it. And I was like, boom, man, hit me up. Let me speak to Skylar.
Okay, so I don't need to tell you that we do things very quickly and we try not to involve you as much as possible.
No, I'm in.
Okay, beautiful. Is there anything else? Because that conversation was pretty quick. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think I need to know?
And I think we covered all the details, especially from what I went through on the previous call.
Beautiful. Well, listen, if you need this done in 60 days and you do not want to have more things on your plate because you know what has worked for you over the last 12 months, being focused, doing what you do best and not getting distracted, we can absolutely make that happen. If you want me to take you through very briefly, A through to Z, what happens, what we're going to do for you, not what you need to do, what we're going to do so you don't have to, I can just take you through that very quickly.
Yeah, please do, Josh. Let's do it.
And then I will just close it. Yeah. If we had a little bit more time, I may have asked a handful extra questions, but really not much. All right. So in that video, you got to see a number of different things, especially some more advanced things. Not going in order. One of the things that we talked about, very little nitpicking, is don't ever say we. When you're referring to the prospect and the information they've given you, just say you. It is you, the prospect, that is doing this or not doing this, getting things wrong, struggling, suffering, etc. Don't gather the data and then say, oh, so we have this problem. Because what that does is it removes ownership from the prospect. Then the most important thing that we're talking about is don't rush the sales call. The more you try and jump over things instead of going deeper and specifying, the more hard work you have to do later. You're either going to get objections. You're either going to sit there sobbing your eyes out and crying because you didn't make commission because you tried to rush the call, or you're going to have to do the worst thing in the entire world, which is follow-up. You do not want to do either of those 3 things. You just want to slow down to speed up. Slow down, go deeper on everything. The prospect will always have the answers. And the more that you trust that the prospect wants to play ball, you give them the ball and they will score the goals for you. You just have to facilitate things. You don't have to manipulate, twist, contort, try too hard. Just ask questions and you will close the sale and you'll make commissions and you'll never have to do follow-up. So if that is something that you want to be trained on, we do training like this inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind every single week. Much longer than these trainings. We go for about 4 hours. We do call reviews, role plays, specific training on internal mastery and scriptless selling. If you want to make more money as a high-ticket closer, you need to learn to go off the script. You need to learn to go deeper. And as we talked about briefly there, you also need to work on your internal mastery. If that is something that you want to do, if you want to make more money, there'll be a link below somewhere around this video. Click the link and I might see you inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind very soon.